I am Beth Huertas. Thank you all for coming this afternoon. I have candy if you need to stay awake a little bit longer. Just give a raise of the hand. Did everybody get the QR code and a packet of seeds? I'm thinking of spring already, so you can prep them when you're ready. Welcome to our trek to building pathways to positive connections in the greater Philadelphia region. This is a social emotional learning project, and it is funded by William Penn. They were graciously funding us for 2 years, and we are partnered with First Up, and I am from Public Health Management Corporation, which is also the lead partner in this project. So here is our QR code again, specifically for this program session. The QR code I gave you earlier on the packet of seeds has all of the presentations that we have at this conference today, including my poster session that is following. So please stop by, check it out. So you can get lots of information along the way, and always feel free to reach out and email if you were like, I don't remember where that QR code went. Can you send it to me? I will do that. So our agenda today is we're going to introduce ourselves. I think there might be more of us than there is audience members, so we can be quick about it. We're going to talk about how did we get to where we are with this project, because as Sue mentioned, it's been a while, and it's a labor of love, I will say, definitely on my behalf. I was a teacher way before, and being introduced to the pyramid model and PBIS and taking it into PHMC has been a journey. And then we will tell you what we are currently doing in the city of Philadelphia, and then we will open it up for questions. I'll do my best to answer as many as possible. So Pathways to Positive Connections is a 2-year project in the center of Center City. We work in all parts of Philadelphia with early learning programs. And so we are partnered with First Up and PHMC, and we are the leads that are coaching early learning programs. I am the project manager over at PHMC for PBIS, and I'm seeing friends back there making me giggle. I'm so sorry. So I work managing other coaches as well as some side projects with just building the social emotional pieces. I'm going to bring it to my friend from First Up so she can share who she is.
Oh, it's not that kind of one. Yeah. Good afternoon, friends. Happy Wednesday. My name is Tiffany Thorpe, and I am the program manager for PPC, which is Pathways to Positive Connections with First Up. Beth's project focuses on the whole center, and we actually, our component of it goes into classroom specific inside of the early learning program. I have been actually as a provider in the PBIS project. My center, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, was a center that was a part of the PBIS before I joined as a coach and became part of First Up. So I'm well versed in the project, and actually was a part of a 2-year journey where we have facilitated great positive behavior interventions and support. So that's a little bit about me. My team I have a team of 2 coaches, April and Shay, and they provide the personalized coaching to the early learning programs.
Which you led me right into my next slide. So there was some transition through our project already. We had some turnover. Tiffany, as she said earlier, she came on board. We had a previous coach there, as well as we added some coaches for First Up that do an amazing job within the preschool classrooms that they work with. And then I had some turnover on my side as well. And I have my new coach. He's 3 months in. I'm Jay Higman. He's been just going right into the field and working with me and dealing with a lot of presentations at the moment. But we're finding our ground again within Philadelphia. So a little background. we piloted a couple of just social emotional projects, just trying to put feelers out there where it would be. Spent almost about 10 years with PHMC trying to facilitate this work. It started with me coming on board as a stars quality coach and saying, hey, I would like to take some training. And then I got attached to the network with Sue and her team, and I became a facilitator. And as we've grown, we started off with 3 locations. In Center City, it was a legal entity, and it was a research project. It was with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and it was all just trying to see if PBIS or pyramid model practices could reduce suspension and expulsion. And then it kind of exploded, which I'm excited about because I worked really hard to get everybody there. We had 3 sites that turned into 11 sites, and now we are working with First Up, and we collaborated with their project called Select, which was working with, 20 sites. And so now we are at 35 total, exploring pyramid model practices and exploration of the framework. So we are very excited, and we are hoping our work continues into another year to extend our reach. So the first big one was ECE. It was very much a research project. We focused on professional development because getting the word out about pyramid model was very much like a foreign language. And then what the framework looked like. What, was it just in the classroom, or what did it look like within the building? We did weekly coaching sessions with those 3 locations, and it was intensive. We had a timeline of things to do. It wasn't as organic as what many of us have experienced with coaching into the framework. And there was a lot of lessons learned. Not everybody liked data. And being a part of a research project, there was a lot of data and how to define certain things. With the concept of PBIS, with the suspension and expulsion, we had to define what suspension and expulsion was, and then we had to figure a way to track it and people being okay tracking it. So there was a lot of hiccups along the way, but we did some great work. We established some leadership teams. We established several locations with program-wide expectations, and I will say the 3 that we started with are still going strong with their expectations and their core leadership team. I'm hoping to get one of them over to Tier 1 fidelity next year. We had increased buy-in, and there was a lot more use of social emotional practices. And that was across the board from infants to toddlers and then preschoolers. And they tried to dabble with their after-school program as well. And we had several locations receive the participation award or badge from the PBIS network, which was huge because they felt like they got some momentum coming in and they got a taste of what that fidelity piece looks like. So now they know, and now they're working towards getting that Tier 1. So this is Select. Select is the social emotional learning project from First Up. And they really worked with monthly professional development within Philadelphia. They worked with center-based and family providers to support 1 preschool. So with Select, they were very mindful of what classrooms they were working in and how that kind of worked into the big picture of the buy-in. They also implemented a curriculum called Second Step, and they received training on that from their monthly coaches, and then they received coaching. And we also have a Select candidate or participant, if you don't mind coming up and sharing your experience with the Select process.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for giving me the moment to share this experience because it was truly amazing. My name is Melissa Blatz. I am the Executive Director of Beautiful Beginnings Child Care Center in Philadelphia. We have 2 locations. One is in the Ronhurst section of Philadelphia, and the other one is in the Holmesburg, Frankfurt area. So we studied trauma principles. Our teachers were going to every training that they could get their hands on to focus on the brain and how does that affect our social emotional balance. We had the principles. What do we do with it? We didn't know how to apply it in our classrooms. Our teachers could spit out all the definitions, but they didn't know what to do with those children who were showing that need. Enter Select. So when Select came across my emails, I knew right away, hands-on coaching, a useful tool, a curriculum that allowed us to focus social emotional learning in every aspect of our teaching. So if we were in the elementary space, we would be teaching reading across the board. You teach reading in math, you teach reading in social studies, you teach reading in science. In preschool, we have to focus on social emotional learning across the board. That's how they'll learn the academic skills. So we had the experience of working with an amazing coach. We had her for 2 years. It was incredible. So she helped us to implement second step curriculum. She allowed us to realize that it wasn't just 10 minutes at circle time and morning meetings saying, today I feel sad. And then we move on. So it was about talking about, well, what does sad feel like? What does sad look like? What do we do when we feel sad? We were able to use that curriculum to continue those conversations with kids. And then you sit in a classroom and see 2 preschoolers talking about, I was sad today because you wouldn't let me play in the block center with you. I wanted to cry. And then they work it out. And the tools that we gained from Select allowed us to realize we need more. So here comes Pathways, thank goodness. And with Pathways, we're moving toward PBIS strategies across our entire program. So it's not just in one classroom, it's at 2 centers. It's our culture, it's our philosophy, it's our teachers, it's our parents, our children, our therapist, our support staff, everybody who enters our building knows that at Beautiful Beginnings, we are kind, we're accepting of needs, we are respectful, and we are safe. And that's just the beginning. So what does kind look like? What does accepting look like? And we're using those skills in everything we do. So now we have the trauma principles, we have the second step curriculum, and we're working on the framework, thanks to Pathways. Thank you. Did I cover everything?
You are. I might call you up again. That was awesome. So Melissa was one that I was keeping an eye on because she was on several trainings about social emotional learning. And when Pathways came about, I was like, I heard you might like this. And her select coach was like, she's a prime candidate, but she has 2 centers. And I was like, well, let's see what we can do. And she has hit the ground running, especially in this project of Pathways to Positive Connections. With Select, our goal is to really help providers get their bearings of at least one classroom and then build that momentum. And so with that, they saw amazing outcomes. They had behavior expectations being taught in the classrooms. They had children learning, expressing their emotions. It was coming alive. There was problem solving. They were providing more direction rather than just telling kids what they couldn't do. They were changing the language. There was 100% of their participants said they would be continuing to use second step. And we saw that especially at Melissa's site in their classrooms. Our goal with Pathways is to start to expand that. They thought the coaching, as many of you probably think or know, coaching is very hands-on. Everybody wants it, and it is. It's something that we are trying to help them facilitate now on their own so they can be sustainable. And then we also saw, for our funding source, we needed to do a baseline. So the teapot was one of the baselines that we use, and we are still currently using that. They saw with Select that the scores did go up. They do coach using the baseline and then using some strength-based coaching practices with a goal driven for social emotional content. Everything we do is rooted in the pyramid model. So this does not, outside the norms. But we wanted to work with each provider, and everybody does do things a little different at different speeds and different ways to doing things. Some start with a couple classrooms, some start with one teacher, but they all come back to those pyramid model practices that we go for. We're looking to establish some expectations in the classroom. Sometimes it's even just setting, these are rules, and then we're working up to those expectations. Visuals are a big component of what is being done as well. So, whoa, I'm so sorry. It was a little jumpy. So with Pathways to Positive Connections, there is a 3-tier approach, and it is different than the pyramid model. We use tier 1 as it's open to everybody. You don't have to have any systems or any real big pieces of the framework in place. You just have to really want to learn about social emotional learning and are willing to be open to coaching and seeing where it takes you. It's open to all STAR levels in Pennsylvania and specifically Philadelphia for the coaching. There is a 3-tier approach. The first tier is open to everybody. So we've had people taking trainings from across the state. We've had some outside state participants as well. And then the second tier is pure a community of practice. So whoever is taking those tier 1 trainings that is interested in learning more, we invite back and we do a community of practice. Right now, it's been about 4 times a year where we take a deeper dive. And then it's those tier 3 people. Those tier 3 are 35 locations, and they're split up into 2 tracks. As Tiffany shared earlier, her track with First Up is working with one classroom of, I want to make sure it's 20 providers. I always get the numbers mixed up. 20 classrooms. And we do have some providers that have multiple classrooms within their facility. And they are working to explore the social emotional contents, practices, curriculum of Second Step. They do receive their own training as well as weekly coaching, if not by, every other week, depending how often we can get in there. And then tier 3 program wide is from PHMC, and Jay and I are out there in the mix with our 15 providers, and we are working with an internal coach or somebody that the site has identified as a person that wants to learn more about the framework. We've also kind of geared it a couple different ways, I think you could say, Jay, depending on where the needs are for our providers. We've worked with just model classrooms. We've worked with core leadership teams. We worked to just establish a core leadership team. And we have worked with admin as well to working on certain systems in play. So that tier 3 is very tailored with a specific coach in mind. Everything that we do link it to DHS to make sure you're meeting some of those requirements as well as your Keystone Stars. And we do have several locations that have NACCE accreditation as well. So first up, Tiffany, you want to help me out with it? All right. So Tiffany and I, along with our supervisors, sit down usually at the early spring and we look at the surveys that we've gotten back from past years to see where the needs are. We've also spoken with our coaches to see where they're hearing things out in the field to really gear our training for our providers that way.
So those tier 1 supports, again, the topics come from the need, right? So it could be anything from classroom arrangement, teacher wellness. We try to dive into what the classroom supports they need to even think about addressing or attacking social emotional learning and what that all what the whole process involves. So those tier 1 supports or trainings are geared more to get them in the mindset, but also give them professional development that's going to help them build their classroom up, build themselves up, so that they can be open to the next level, more intense and targeted supports. They're like Bev said, they're open to everyone, administrators and teachers, and we encourage administrators and teachers to attend them, and then we advertise them to everyone. We work for 2 different organizations, so again, we put them out on social media. We'll blast them in newsletters that go out throughout the city, just so we can get that support, or that involvement or participation from everyone. So that's why it's very much open. And the topics come from the need of the field, which is important. We definitely try to gear the professional development to what's going on and what's needed right now. Next one. This is a list of our what we kind of did for this year. I love how Beth she does me up with these cute little PDFs. But we do that. We built the whole track out for the whole year. So we get this to we list those trainings and give this kind of flyer out to the providers so that they know what's coming up. We know how hard it is with the staff shortages to attend the trainings. Right now our trainings are geared between 1 and 3 o'clock, just because there's just trying to find time to do trainings is hard to do that. But they're geared towards the 1 to 3 time frame, around nap time, if folks still do nap time. And the topics, like I said, are given ahead of time. So we had child development, challenging behaviors at the beginning of the school year, right? Because that is getting them geared up for some things, some new friends in their classroom, some new things that are happening. Very strategic about the time frame the trainings are offered and what is offered. The second training we just did was Elwin, when and how to refer, getting everybody in the mindset of what comes next. We have identified some folks, what challenging behaviors is, what's a challenging behavior versus typical child development and typical preschool behaviors or infant toddler behaviors. And then our next one coming up in October, next week, child observation. That's next, right? How do we document? How do we do anecdotals? How do we document their progress and what's needed? Flip It is an amazing training that is going to be provided by First Up, that kind of gets them in the geared toward using the different supports and strategies and how to do that. It's very colorful, and it's a lot of user-friendly resources that the teachers can use and post. Really like that training. Building relationships with families, of course, that's important. After we come back from the holiday break, hopefully we can, now we shift in our gear. We have identified behaviors. What is a child normal behavior versus a challenge behavior. We know how and when to refer now. We know how to observe and document those behaviors. We know how to implement some strategies now. Now we're talking to families. We're building relationships with families, so you can kind of see the whole method and methodology of how the trainings were, how we chose to do those. Then finally including family engagement, doing activities, not just building relationships. Now we built those relationships. Now we wanna have families engaged in the program, events, things like that. And then teacher wellness is always important. You Matter is the name of the session. It's just important to bring teachers back to taking care of themselves, self-care, mindfulness. The tier 2 trainings, which is is this tier 2?
No. So
Oh, this is the second one.
yeah. I can chat about that.
Yep.
So this was tier 2. I'm sorry. This is our flyer from last year.
The first one.
So what we did was some of the trainings were kind of similar,
Right.
that Tiffany just shared. We needed to repeat them because we did get an overwhelming amount of people that registered and expressed that they wanted to have this again for more staff. So we did put it into this year's roll of trainings. If you notice, all of the trainings are underlined. They're all Zoom links because we found that was the easiest way to connect to providers. And once you click on it, you have to register through Zoom. So we collected all of our data that way, because we do have a requirement on, I believe it's 275 people that they want us to have attend within the 2-year process. We are already past 200. But we also know that people need the dates in advance. They register for it. They get a reminder for it. They most likely will attend. They have referred other providers to these sessions. Anybody can do this. Tier 1 is easy to duplicate. We're trying to get it out into the counties as well, just to get awareness of social emotional learning, getting the fundamentals in there. This year we added the child observation. It was amazing to have a lot of providers that we were talking to that were like, how do you do that? How do you collect data on children and jotting what they know and what they don't know? So we have a lot of providers in Philly that are still in that set, and we needed to kind of help them along. So this was our first way of doing it. They do receive PCOS credits. You do register on the PD registry for some, as well as on the Zoom account. And then we do go into Tier 2, and this is where anybody that has attended those Tier 1 trainings, we personally send them an email and say, this would be another great session for you. Would you like to come in to do a community of practice? Again, the community of practices are a little bit more, they're smaller. They're about 4 times a year, roughly about the same time frame, that nap time. We found that was pretty much the easiest time for people to get out to do a session. They are tailored to a lot more discussion. It's not a typical lecture, training. We want people to engage. We want them to network with others, to really kind of keep the momentum going. And we've had some providers that have come back multiple times for the community of practice. Year 1, we did not do a flyer. We did personal emails. Year 2, we did a little bit more of a flyer. We planned it out so they had dates in advance. We linked them to the training sessions of Tier 1. So we had some great successes. And then also we just had our child development vices challenging behavior. We had 7 people sign up and nobody showed. So there are some, it's just like the luck of the draw with sometimes of people's availability. And we try to bring outside trainers in. We worked with, First Up had brought some of their training instructors in. We worked with the behavior, I can't remember their name off the top.
Behavior Health Training and Education Network.
Thank you.
B10.
I always,
B10, yeah.
B10. They've helped us along with these community of practices as well. All right, so this is the big tier where the coaches work quite a bit about. This is Tier 3 supports, and option 1 is the single classroom. Tiffany.
Yep, so these trainings, the supports, the 20 providers, they go through an application process, of course, right? We have, like I said, we have our 2 coaches that work with those 20 ECE classrooms. All of the classrooms are preschool classrooms, and they work with them over 2 years, hopefully. They get bi-monthly coaching, but it's actually, as much as we try to, just with staff shortages, we experienced a whole lot, but we try to get in there every other week, if not weekly, to provide that coaching support. And then the professional development. The professional development is geared directly towards the need of the participants. So this is not general topics. This is a lot more focused, individualized, and intense support for those specific participants. We also help them implement the second step curriculum. So we do have some trainings that reinforce the second step curriculum so that's a next level tier. Not the Tier 1 trainings, of course, we don't go into curriculum because not everyone uses the same curriculum. But that just goes into some of our individualized support. And then we also do pre and post TPOD assessments. Those trainings this year varied. And what we did was get input from the providers. Last year we had this training. What would you like to see this year? I see you have a little bit of difficulty. Some of the topics came through the coaching observations. I see you having a little bit difficulty implementing the rules or using the solution kits or, incorporating a curriculum throughout the whole entire classroom. So we'll have a topic that's geared towards that. we actually made our list of trainings for the year, and then for the first 2 months of the school year, we kind of went back to the drawing board and added another one. The main one that the coaches wanted to provide was classroom management. Even though it seems like a general topic, it is something that they thought we should revisit, especially with a lot of the staff changes and staff shortages and all that good stuff. So we do try to incorporate the need by maybe adding sessions or changing some topics up, that type of thing. But the tier 3 supports and the tier 3 trainings is definitely very individualized and specific to each participant that we're working with. And then the program.
Keep switching. Yeah. So tier 3 program wide is with providers that we kind of reached out to. Melissa's group was one that we reached out to saying, we've seen you work and it looks like you're still interested in moving forward with the social emotional learning. This is an opportunity to explore. With previous initiatives and projects, we learned that there needs to be an exploration period of the framework. They need to have time to understand it, digest it, try to figure out how to make it their own. And so this project, we're really trying to do that. We do have a hefty calendar of professional development. We have linked overviews of the tippy toe and teapots. We did what are program-wide expectations and why are they different than classroom rules? We've talked about core leadership teams. What does that look like and how can that be merged into what you currently already do? So we've been really mindful trying to coordinate what providers need to see so they understand what the framework is. We have thrown in tips training, the team approach to running their meetings. We've thrown in the practice-based coaching because those are items that are pieces of the fidelity measures, but they don't always have the opportunity to explore. And we have the luxury of having some guidance from our coaches. And so it's a nice way that they can get the training or an overview, and then they could practice if that's where they're looking to do. We have 15 centers, and each of them are at different points of their journey, which is exciting as a coach. But as a project manager, it drives me nuts because you have to figure out exactly where everybody is and how I can keep them moving forward. But our goal is to have them just explore, and if they make a mistake or trying to figure out what to do next, they have somebody there. So I'm going to call up Jay and see how give you his insight on being a coach.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jay Hegeman, and I've been working with Beth for the last
It's 3 months.
3 months exactly.
3 months
Today.
yesterday.
Or yesterday. So, I'm not gonna lie, I was a teacher in New Jersey. I did preschool for about 10 years, and it's a totally different ballgame, but having my background in social emotional learning, going into a coaching position, especially with Beth as my mentor, it was amazing. I'm always eager to learn. I've been on many trainings in the last 2 months, but the one thing that I have noticed throughout my entire time so far is that no matter what site I'm at, no matter who I'm meeting or dealing with, we're all striving for the same end goal, and that is what keeps me going every day. It's what makes me love my job, because I'm not an expert at what I did in my classroom, but I have a little bit of knowledge, and I can help those people in the end as much as I can. So that's about it.
And I will be honest, he had one day in the office, and that was his first day. And then I was like, you need to be out in the field. And he has been following me everywhere I go, and has been very gracious on just jumping in. And I will tell him one meeting that we're going into, and then it turns into something completely different. And he rolls with the punches. And I think that's a big piece of this project, is that we can pivot and redirect and reboot ourselves as many times as we need to help the providers that we're working with. And it is right now 2 years. We're hoping for that third, if not longer, to continue the journey. So there was some successes and some barriers, as you can probably imagine. So with tier 1 and tier 2, some of the barriers were the topics, like how to get started. We had some very boisterous people, and then we had like crickets. Especially with the community of practices, we had some that were like very well attended, and then they would give us like one of the questions on the survey that we asked you to fill out at the end is, what other topics might you be interested in? And we give you some examples, and we would put exactly what they asked, and they didn't show. And we're like, what is going on? And sometimes it's the time of year, sometimes it's just it's the day. We also had some trouble finding some trainers. We've had to develop quite a bit of material on our own. And then timing, trying to find what is exactly going to work. But we had some successes. Like I said, we have over 200 participants so far that have attended sessions. And I love when we put out the flyer and the reminders because it all comes to my inbox, and I feel very loved that people want to come to the session. And we have many people that are returning. And we have many people that are like, is there an opening at that tier 3? And so now we're getting some momentum on trying to build that tier 3 out a little bit further. So our tier 3 success stories and some barriers. We have pivoted multiple times, as heard at the very beginning. Our staff of the project changed. I am the longest standing member. But we have had some new, fresh ideas coming in, and we never let our providers just not have anybody. There was always like a contingency plan of some kind of service while we were getting those new coaches up to speed and ready to go out. And that was a big component. When we did go out, many of our locations are in survival mode, or they were in crisis. So trying to help them and support them. Many of our trainings or just meetings for coaching sessions sometimes turn into, let's stop. Let's just take a deep breath, get yourself together. What can we do to support? I have clean tables, I have mopped floors, whatever I need to do. And poor Jay, it kind of just goes, oh, we do this? I was like, yes, we do. And we're just going to do that because I'm building a relationship. Melissa and you'll meet Eunice, like they have been around under my radar in some capacity. And my goal is to have those people that have been in select or that tier 3 single classroom move up to that program-wide exploration. And so they can really get their foot in the door of the network and trying to get their bearings a little bit more with some guidance. And it being funded, which is a big component. Some of our successes, we've had sites that have put in their expectations. Melissa and Eunice both like hit the ground running. And I was like, whoa, let's hold back. Let's understand exactly what we're going to do, and let's build a system. Because we have learned that we can, if we're just doing it from the top and just saying what it is, and then there's no system or no check and balance, it's going to fall short. So they've worked really hard at their locations, and their staff is bought in. And they're excited. Every time I'm in there, they're like, oh, I've tried this strategy, or do you have something for this? So they're seeking us out. The coaching, getting it on a schedule has really helped us. If we're like, we'll see you next Wednesday, they're there. Very few cancellations when we're there. We've also done the pop-in. I'm notorious for like, I haven't heard from you in a little while. Hi. And I'll pop in, but it gets me in there. And especially in September where many sites were like, no one comes in, and maybe towards October when the kids get settled, And Jay had just started, and he was like, how do you do? And I was like, watch. And so I was like, I can help with I want to see the flow. Let me see the flow of your schedule. Let me see the flow of things, and we can kind of talk to teachers and work things through. And I was in there, and then they would invite me back. And sometimes I would bring some treats because I bake, and that helps too. But it was keeping that momentum, and we're seeing some climate change. The feel of locations. I was at one of the first up sites, and their teapots was really rough. And I remember I was doing the teapot, and they were calling a parent and saying, this kid needs to go home. And I was just like, okay. I just left there last month, and they are doing second step with puppets, and they had kids fully engaged in activities, and they were able to talk to me, and there was no issue. That would have never happened when I did the teapot at the beginning of this project almost 8 months ago. So they're really embracing it, and we're starting to see that change happening. And we're seeing tracking with the training too. Not everything people can attend. So we have Padlets, because we stole that from our friends over at the network. And so our Padlet is from the very, very first session, the welcome session, all the way up to where we are now. All the resources are there. The slide deck is there. And then our sessions are recorded for our providers. So if you can't make it, you can easily take the recording. And then we are going to talk about it once we do the coaching. And that has had a great piece of the puzzle. A lot of admin had said with staff turnover, that was one way that they can catch people up, and it's all right there. And for some that were not ready for the expectations, but they were working on their bucket fillers or their acknowledgement system, they were like, oh, I can go back and I can remember to do this now, or I want to try this. Many of our providers have used our PowerPoints as staff meetings as well. So some of our solutions pivot as many times as possible to make it work. Sometimes it's a big step, sometimes it's a little one. We want to be seen as a resource. So there were some providers they saw and was like, well, I need this. Well, I can try to give you some information and do that. Can you do this? So we pivot, and we're seen as the resource. We'll gather. I will, search the internet for people. Professional development is virtual, and it's recorded, so it's a little bit easier to navigate. There's a lot of collaboration meetings with First Up, with our partners over at Spark, with some Philly pre-K coaches. So we try to make sure everybody's on the same page. And then again, Padlets have saved us so many times. Many of our providers have their own individual Padlets that we work on, and we share it with our partners, so everybody puts the same information on it, so everybody's on the same page. And then stay on their radar. Emails don't always work, and I'm awful with phone calls, but I will drop an email in. I have done the drive-bys. I have left a friendly note, and I will also just be around, like popping in and out, especially if we're at a network meeting or a community meeting, and I see somebody, I'll be like, private message them, hey, I haven't seen you in a little while, let's schedule something. We've had meetings in the mornings, we've had meetings late at night. We're very flexible with our time as well. So I'm going to ask for Beautiful Beginnings, because you heard a little bit from Melissa already. There we go. This is very sensitive. I'm sorry. If Grace Ferry's Eunice Bay can come on up and share her journey with Pathways.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eunice Bay. I am the CEO, Executive Director of Grace Ferry Early Learning Academy. So if someone were to ask me my why am I part of this cohort, I would start to ask you all a question. This year, have you all experienced challenging behaviors in your school program? Raise your hand. mostly all of us, right? So because of that, I won't even say post-COVID because we're still in COVID. Not like we were several years ago, but in my program and many programs across the Commonwealth have experienced or seen an increase in challenging behaviors in young children. So when the opportunity came through my email, I said, sign me up because we need all of the supports available, and that's what we are receiving. Beth talked about relationships, right? Because that's the foundation of how we can collaborate, brainstorm, implementation. So Beth and I, our conversation starts one way, and then it just goes to the roof, out the door. Like we just, bounce ideas. We get so excited, whether it's creating classroom expectations, like she was talking about, Melissa and I, like we just go, right? Expectations, and then it's the teacher buy-in. So one of the Tyler programs, they created a growth garden. That's their safe space where they have, in their classroom, it's Spider, what's his name? Surrey Spider in the Tyler classroom. It's the growth garden, and that's the foundation because they want to nurture. That's why it's called the growth garden. They have books. Children now, you have to see it, is so cute. The big feelings that our toddlers and pre-K children have, they'll go into the growth garden themselves without the teacher saying, would you like to go into the growth garden? And we can sit and talk. They will go. They will grab Surrey the Spider. Pre-K is Tucker the Turtle. And we have feeling mirrors, I guess you could call them. But it goes beyond talking about, are you happy? Show me what a happy it goes beyond that. To problem solving, like Melissa said, identifying the root cause of some things that previously it was hard for children to do, hence the challenging behaviors. Or teachers knowing how to handle certain things better because there's a toolkit next to the pre-K classroom has a safe zone, so they have a safe zone toolkit. The growth garden, they have the growth garden toolkit. Another pre-K classroom, they have a superhero. What's his name? The superhero? Friend superhero? Right, the friend superhero. And in that, someone received a cake because they were a great problem solver. So we use these strategies in our classrooms, in our center, and we have noticed a decrease in, I'm going to call them big feelings. They're challenging behaviors, but for the sake of, we'll just call them big feelings. And children will go over there, and you'll see them put their hands together like this and on their chest and breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. So I'll just say thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Grace Ferry is very excitable because they are small. We work with their infant toddler room and then their preschool room because they have the stable staff in there, and they took, like, at first they were very timid. They were like, and then they started just tinkering around, and especially in the toddler room, the teacher had great language already, and then she's like, you can do this, and then her and her co-teacher just flourished with this growth garden, and then they were very excited with Surrey. The kids love the spider. They take it everywhere, and it's been a really cool experience because they'll come up to Jay and I and be like, what do you think about this? Or I'm trying this and I don't really know how this goes. They implemented the choice board just for songs, and the kids loved it. They do. Because they kept doing the same song over and over, and now they have choices that they can talk about, and the language has just like exploded. In the preschool classroom, it was I did a coaching, like a 15-minute coaching session, and she took it and ran and made it her own. And she's excited about it. And she's like, I can see a difference now. So it's been very exciting over at Grace. And we've been in this project for a little over a year technically. And they've been going full blast. I'm going to go back to Beautiful Beginnings. Melissa, do you want to share a little bit more?
So as Beth was talking and hearing Eunice talk, and it makes me think about, we talk about changing the children's behaviors so frequently and teaching the children replacement behaviors and strategies like that. Going from a different lens with this project, I was able to change my teachers' behaviors. I was able to replace some of their behaviors with expectations, with noticing and wondering, taking a look at a child and noticing that they're doing this every day at 10 o'clock. I wonder why. And then dialing back, and rather than reacting to the behavior, they were able to responding with intention, responding with focus, and responding with solutions. They're able to change the dynamic for the children as well. So the entire experience has just really developed the strength within our programs, and we've kind of taken the ball and ran with it, where now we have very informal discussion groups, and they're scheduled in the evenings. It's once a month, and it's informal. It's, hey, if you want to come, we would love to hear from you. If you can't make it, that's okay. Don't stress. It's not about that. Teachers come, they attend, they want to share what they're doing in their classroom. They want to share that, hey, I found this new social story. Have you guys seen this yet? And kind of talking about, have you seen Johnny lately? What's going on with Johnny? And just sharing ideas. It's purposeful, it's meaningful, and it's impactful. And that's what's so important. Our goal at the end of this project is to implement PBIS to fidelity. I want a banner. I'm going for it. But in Philadelphia, it's not common. It really isn't. So we need resources, we need support, we need funding, so we can make this happen, so more programs like ours can get the banner and impact the lives of the children in Philadelphia. Thank you.
I'm excited because Melissa came on board and Eunice as well. They're passionate and they're ready for it. And I was like, we brought them back a little, and I was like, it's shared decision making. We want to have as much of a group effort as possible, and they both embraced it. Melissa has her core leadership team. They're the PIT crew because their acronym is CARS, and they legitimately ran with that acronym. So we've had some really great successes. This is stuff that you can easily duplicate as well, especially at those tier 1 and tier 2s. I'm an open book, so please email me if you ever need some ideas. Is there any questions? No, you've been wonderful. I appreciate everything. You spent your time with us today. There was other sessions that you could go to, and I appreciate that you stopped over. Please explore the Padlet. There is a lot of information on that. And thank you again.